Welcome back, guys, to another episode of our Dumpster Talk podcast. Todd and I here today. We have a special guest with us today. We just met and got acquainted together, Tom Jones. So I'm sure you guys have seen his signs. He's running for House of Representative, correct?
Running for the state senate.
Oh, for state senate. Okay.
So I'm currently in the House of Representatives.
Okay.
98th district.
but I'm running for the state senate. So.
Sorry about that.
No, that's cool. So, yep.
But yeah, you were saying kind of very similar to us. It grew up here in Columbia.
Yeah.
Grew up with Dan and went to Catholic school as well.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. So grew up here in Columbia Borough. So born and raised here in Lancaster County. But I'm a river rat. Grew up creek stomping right here in the neighboring creek, and so grew up here in Columbia, and currently live up in Maytown. Been there since about 1990, but met my wife up there, and we raised our 4 kids here in Lancaster County. Awesome place to live. But I grew up, graduated from Lancaster Catholic High School, went to school with Dan and his brothers. I've known the Sod family for as long as I can remember. And my dad actually, back when we lived in Columbia, he owned and operated a trash hauling business on top of working full time at Armstrong, outside of Marietta there.
Nice.
My dad worked 2 jobs, and my mom was home with me, my brother, my sister out on Manor Street. But it was an awesome place to grow up, and honestly where I'm at, I'm a self-employed landscaper. I have my own small business, Still have that business. My son helps to operate that now, sort of like Dan, took over for his family. Just doing great work. So,
Yeah,
That's awesome. And your son does that locally here in Columbia.
He's
Right?
this corner of Lancaster County, the northwest corner of Lancaster County, Columbia, Mount Joy, Marietta, Bainbridge, E-Town. We get over to Manheim and even Lidditz, and outside Columbia, down below Columbia, down to Crestwell and stuff, that sort of thing. There's great opportunities in Lancaster County for all the small businesses, and it's been really cool to see the sod metal recycling. When I was a kid, we called it sod salvage. I remember taking my bicycle riding around town, and we would we'd dumpster dive, trash can dive, looking for aluminum cans, and we'd bring them here. That's how when we were kids, we'd make some extra spending money by collecting aluminum cans. It was good stuff.
Oh yeah.
No, that's awesome. We appreciate you sharing that. To switch over a little bit, do you want to kind of walk us through your current role and what you focus on daily?
Yeah.
As a representative.
So currently, I'm a state representative for the 98th Legislative District. Now, what that means is there are 203 state representatives in Pennsylvania, and we all represent about 65,000 people. I currently represent the entire Donegal School District, the entire Elizabethtown School District, and the southwest corner of Lebanon County as well. So I represent about 65,000 people, and I'm a state representative. Of course, we have our 3 branches of government: our judicial, our Supreme Court. We have our executive, which is the governor, and then we have our legislative branch of government. It's called the General Assembly, and we have the House, and then we have 50 senators. So we have 203 House members and state representatives, and we have 50 senators. I'm one of those state representatives currently, it's a great job. I love what I get to do because we have our work in Harrisburg, where we work on legislation. We try to pass good things into law we pass good legislation that the governor then signs into law. But then we also have our district offices. My district office is in Elizabethtown, and my district office is a place where my staff can help people, whether it's rent rebate or heating assistance if they qualify. We have opportunity, like if you need help getting in touch with PennDOT or Department of Human Services or Department of Environmental Protection, anything that my constituents, the people I represent, this area that I represent, if they're dealing with an issue that involves state government, we're lots of times that connection point.
Yeah, for sure.
Sure. Thank you for sharing that.
Is there any how long have you been in the House of Representatives?
Yeah, so I've been in the House. This is my second term in the House. Okay. So I've been in for 4 years. Prior to that, I was a township supervisor. Okay. We have here in Pennsylvania, we have it's actually 2,582 local municipalities, whether it's a borough like Columbia Borough or whether it's East Donegal Township, where I was a township supervisor. We have 2,582, I believe, municipalities. I was a township supervisor prior to being a state representative. Prior to being a township supervisor, I was on the Parks Commission. So I kind of got involved in local governance and local representation of the community in a small way. Helping out with the Parks Commission. I'm a landscaper, and so it just made sense. But really, just over the years, just sort of woke up to just how impactful government is in our everyday lives. A lot of people were out there busy, making a living, trying to feed our kids, pay the mortgage, put food on the table, dealing with everyday expenses. And what really impacts that is the amount of money that the government takes out of your pocket in the form of taxation. And so the more I learned about that, the more important it became to me to make sure that we have good governing officials who are in it for the people and not for themselves.
Right.
For sure. No, you can go.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sorry. I was just is there like a certain bill or certain job that you kind of worked on in the past 4 years that like you're really, really proud of, or you're always going to remember kind of?
There's a lot of different legislation. I'll tell you what, there's a lot of great ideas. Some not great, some really bad ideas that state legislators will introduce. Okay, so we'll introduce a bill, an idea. It has to go through a gauntlet, and I'm glad it does. That way, government can't just run roughshod over us. But there's a process to getting an idea or a bill signed into law, right? And until the governor signs something into law, you haven't gotten it across the finish line. So there's a lot of work that legislators, that legislators do. Legislators like myself, I've introduced legislation. I've co-sponsored legislation. I've co-primed legislation. There's all different ways to like be involved in putting these ideas forward as legislation or bills. But until the governor signs it into law, you haven't crossed the finish line. Now you've done good work. I'm not going to say that legislators don't work,
Right.
but I'm not going to sit here and like I could go over all these different pieces of legislation, good ideas that I've either co-sponsored or I'm working on. One though that did get signed into law that was a good thing that helped a lot of people. So obviously we always have people who struggle to put food on the table for their families, for themselves. And we have people who deal with hunger every day. Even here in Lancaster County, where we're a beautiful county and we're blessed with a lot of great resources. So we have people that struggle with hunger, and but thankfully we have a lot of good charitable organizations. We have a lot of good faith-based organizations and food banks that help out to feed the hungry. However, what I've discovered was there was a big hole in the funding for our food banks. The federal government cut $10 million for Pennsylvania food banks. And that leaves a pretty big hole in the food supply for those in need. One of the things I became aware of and I knew was that good food was being thrown away. So, you see on these cans, you see the best by date, right? Well, the best by date is not expired. It's still good food, but the grocery stores and restaurants and so forth, they'll throw that away. They'll throw that food away, and in some cases they'll even lock their dumpsters because they were afraid of being sued. But it's still good food. So I partnered with a representative out of Philly, and we together ran a bill, and it went through all the committee processes. It went to the House floor and was voted on. It went to the Senate, and unanimously it was approved. What it did was it made it so that grocery stores and restaurants could actually donate that food and not be sued for it. So what we did was we literally opened tons of food that's now available for those in need, and that's good. That's good work. You work across the aisle. And you work to advance good legislation that benefits, people of Pennsylvania. I'm proud of that one, and I'm proud of a lot of other work I've done.
Yeah.
But that's one particularly that sticks out that I was able to accomplish, and it benefited a lot of people.
That's great, man.
So
What was the hardest transition going from a small business owner to getting into public service and like politics? What was that hardest transition?
yeah.
I apologize too
So-
if I'm wiping my eyes. My
No.
allergies are awful too.
Oh, that's
so
okay.
just wanted to say that.
That's okay. I thought I said something emotional.
Oh no, it's all good. I don't know what's going on.
Okay.
The pollen. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's definitely the pollen. Yeah. So, as far as a transition from, you know, working either, whether you're an employee or an employer, you're working your everyday job. There's a lot of people, I think they don't get involved in government. They see, because we use the word politics and we use the word government kind of interchangeably. For me, they're two very different things. Politics is everywhere. Politics is people. Politics is just people disagreeing, and it's usually a filthy fight, right? Politics. When we never have I heard the word politics used where it's like you think positively of it, like, oh, it's great. It's usually a filthy fight. Government is what I just talked about, where you have good governance, right? Where you can actually govern and advance law that actually benefits everyone. That's good governance, right? But when it comes to getting involved in good governance, we need more good people in governance. Otherwise, all you're going to be stuck with is filthy politicians, right? So we need more good men and women, business owners, even moms, dads, like getting involved in government. The problem is it's so filthy sometimes because of what you see on TV, the sensationalized, just the fights and the ugliness of it is what gets the headlines. A lot of people are like, why would I ever get involved in politics, right? I would encourage people, get involved in government. Step up, get involved in government, get involved local, get involved in your school board, get involved in your local borough council, get involved in your township, right? There's so many ways to get involved locally, or even at the county level. There's so many different ways to get involved at the county level. I would encourage people to get involved locally. If it leads to something else like it did for me, so be it, and those doors will open, and God will lead your path, and he guides us in that direction. But the transition for me, it was slow, it was gradual. So there was never any really strong or very difficult part in that transition. I've owned my landscape business for 25 years. I'm really artistic and I dig in the dirt. I'm like when I was a kid, creek stomping and stuff. I love biology and plants and animals and that sort of thing. And I'm also very artistic. So, that made me a good landscaper. My wife, Rochelle, she's an accountant, right? So on the business end of things, we worked well together. And so for 26 years, we've owned and operated our business. For me, sort of the growth into the position I'm in now, was sort of natural, and it just sort of those doors opened, and God opened those doors, and I'm able to serve in that way. But for me, it's also a way to serve my community. I have a lot of respect for our men and women in uniform, whether it be police or soldiers. People who have served our community, put their lives on the line for us, our firefighters, EMS, emergency services, but especially our military. I've never had the honor of wearing the uniform. I've never served in the military, but I think everybody should give back to their communities. And by stepping into the political arena, which is oftentimes a battle in and of itself, I feel like I'm able to help people and give back to my community in that way. So,
yeah, that's great. That's awesome work that you're doing. We really appreciate you sharing that. About a year ago we had Representative Miller on.
Oh yeah.
And that was kind of our first introduction into like governance and everything like that. So it's great to kind of get yourself out there and learn more about it. Because I feel like especially a lot of people in our generation don't know much about it. They just see what they see online or on TV and just definitely don't want to get into it. So we appreciate you sharing that part.
Yeah. No, I was just about to say about Brett Miller. He's just been like a really great guy. He stopped out one day here at the yard. I think when he first started like representing Columbia. And he's he always comes back and checks in on us. He's really a great guy.
Gave us a tour of the Capitol.
Oh, good.
I never was able to go up there and get a tour, so that was kind of awesome to see.
Yeah.
A lot of history.
That's really, it's an incredible building. Pennsylvania Capitol's probably the most beautiful Capitol. Actually, no, I would just make the claim. It's the most beautiful Capitol in the United States. Now, our nation's capital is larger and fantastic. But as far as just the absolute, the beauty, the art, everything that's packed into our capital, there's not another state capital that holds a candle to the Pennsylvania state capital. It's definitely worth visiting. Right next door, we have the Pennsylvania Museum. And so always worth a trip to Harrisburg to see the Capitol. I'm blessed to live so close. So the schools in our districts oftentimes do tours with their kids usually around fourth grade. And so I'm only a half hour away from the Capitol. So I'm able to pop up for the school tours. Some state representatives, if you want to put things in perspective, some state representatives, they live 5 hours away.
Yeah.
I can think of, Representative Banta from up in Erie, or some of my colleagues who are from Pittsburgh. They have a 3 hour,
Wow.
three or more hour drive in. Jake, we call him Jake from the Lake. He's up by Lake Erie, 5 hours to get to the Capitol.
Wild.
So I have the luxury and the blessing of going home each night after when we have a legislative day, when we're in Harrisburg working on legislation or on the House floor. Usually we wrap up usually 4:30, 5 o'clock on average, and I'm able to go home and have supper with the family. That's a blessing. When a lot of these state representatives they come in, if they come in from Philly, they come in from Pittsburgh, they come down from the Pocono area or from Erie or the northern tier. They stay in Harrisburg for several days on end, away from their families.
Yeah.
So for them, it's an even greater sacrifice in that way. But yeah. Anyway, Representative Miller. Loves serving with State Representative Brett Miller. Brett Miller represents Columbia Borough. Him and I sit beside each other on the House floor. And it's never a dull moment, that's for sure. But Brett Miller's a great state representative and has done a wonderful job representing my hometown of Columbia. We often joke back and forth that he says he has the best district, and
He always does say that.
He does say it, and
You can't really.
I'm not going to argue much. I mean, I got there's pros and cons, but I'll tell you what, he's got Columbia, and that's fantastic.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. We get just real quick, we get a lot of opportunities to go up to the Capitol now. We're members of the Recycled Materials Association.
Yeah.
So I believe it's June 2nd. I'll be up there for a full day, just lobbying, talking to representatives.
Nice.
About stuff that's going on.
My
in
office
our
is
industry.
411 in the Irvis building.
Okay.
So yeah, make sure we catch up when you're up there. It'd be cool to see you up in Harrisburg.
Yeah, no, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, and we want to continue, what you guys do here, at Sod Metal Recycling. It's great work. I mean, it's something that we've seen, and I've seen the Sod family doing this for years, and just doing a great job of it.
Yep.
And coming here when I have my landscape business, and we were just talking about it a little bit earlier about how there's like some fencing over here, things like that, that can be repurposed, reused. So I've been in and out of here pretty frequently over the years.
I believe it.
And, but just the environmental impact that has, recycling, and not only metals, but also of course recycling paper, cardboard, plastics. The recycling efforts that we have here in Lancaster County, here in Pennsylvania, are making an enormous environmental impact, where we're not putting those things into our landfills, right? I know locally Laxwama does a wonderful job with reducing what goes into our landfills by 95%. Because we have the incinerator up in my district, up in Conoy Township. In the 98th Legislative District, we have the Laxwama incinerator that does an incredible job of waste to energy. Yeah. So they not only do they reduce that footprint from 95%, but they also are then producing energy from that, which is just smart moves that I've seen over the years. With my dad owning a trash business, I mean, I remember when I was a kid, we used to haul just truckloads of trash down to Cresswell. And boom, just there it went, into the landfill. Now that's being reduced by 95%. And then also, what's really cool is they're pulling like ferrous and non-ferrous metals. Yep. They're pulling all the metal out of that as well, which is also then a commodity. So really smart things happening. Yeah,
it's awesome to see. They're definitely at a different level than we are. We actually have a 3-day training with them coming up to kind of see how their operation goes compared to ours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure.
But no, there's definitely a lot of great stuff going on in Lancaster.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know, just thinking back to that podcast we did, I remember Brett saying, like, he kind of never had the idea of ever being in government at all. Would you kind of relate to that at all? And
I think Brett was involved in education, and he was a school counselor. It's funny. Like, I guess same thing as you guys kind of mentioned, and I think this is a kind of a shame. I think we should do a better job of teaching civic involvement, civic engagement, involvement in government, just the impact our government has on our everyday lives. I think we should do a better job of educating in our schools. And so I've seen some of that start to take place. I was just actually over at Junior Biztown. They do this Junior Biztown. Yeah, you guys. Okay, yep. So and they teach business, government, just real life skills. And I think it's important to educate. Not everybody is going to get involved in government. Not everybody's called to it, but I think civic engagement is so huge. A disgraceful number of our citizens don't vote. I mean, just at the very least, vote, get engaged, get involved, educate yourself on who your representatives are. They impact your life greatly. I would say when I was younger, I was very patriotic. I love my nation. I love my country. I love Pennsylvania. Of course, I love Columbia. Love Lancaster County. And I've just always been very grateful for, what God has blessed us with, here in the United States, but especially for me growing up here in Pennsylvania, Lancaster County, a place that people come to vacation. Like, we live here. Yeah. I live and play, live, work, and play along the Susquehanna River. And it's just absolutely like living in a beautiful vacation spot. It's a beautiful place to live. So I'm blessed. But when I was younger, I didn't think much about governance or government. Just as you become a business owner, or you get that first paycheck and you see how much the government takes off that paycheck, all of a sudden you're like, wait, what's going on? And you get engaged, right? At the very least, you notice how much the government's taking from you. Okay. So whether it's in property taxes, income taxes, or any other form of taxation, you start to recognize these things. And more, I just became more and more engaged over the years, just paying attention to, what was impacting me, my business, and my family. And I think for a lot of people woke up and got involved during and after COVID, after what we saw the government do to us, to our children, to our schools, to our churches. It was nothing less than tyrannical. And so that woke a lot of people up to, whoa, hey, where do our rights come from, right? And that, for me, actually was some of the core stuff at my foundation when I got involved early on. It's like asking questions like, where do our rights come from? And when is it right to push back against government? We're coming up on 250, but this is our 250 year, July 4th, 250th anniversary of the United States of America. And you got to ask yourself, was the rebellion against King George, was that a good thing? Was that righteous? Was that the right thing to do? Well, yeah, because we got the best nation that's ever graced the planet. We have been a blessing to other nations. We've lifted more people out of poverty than at any other time in human history. And so our republic and serving in that republic, it's actually just been more of educating myself as to, why do we have the form of government we have, and why should I be involved, right? And like I said, those doors have continued to open, and as long as God wants me to serve in this position, I'll serve in this position, and then we'll see what He has next for me.
Well, sure. Thank you.
Yeah. Can you think of any like mentors or leaders that kind of got you lessons you've learned along the way, kind of got you to here, whether it's through your landscaping business, through the government side of things?
Well, first would be my dad, Ed Jones. And I'll tell you, Ed Jones, most people from Columbia know him as Rat Jones. Everybody in Columbia has a nickname. Right. And so they called me Little Eddie. It's whatever. But Ed Jones, my dad, who worked 2 jobs, so that my mom could stay home with me, my brother, my sister. for all those years when we were kids. And he worked 2 jobs. He worked a trash hauling business. And I saw my dad's work ethic. I saw my dad, literally just exhaust himself, taking care of us.
Right.
And so that was a huge lesson to me and inspiration to me when it came to, you don't feel like getting up in the morning, but you get up. You don't feel like going to work, but you go to work. You have to buckle down. He would use this term, buckle down. Like, you got to buckle down and get it done. And he'd say that to me all the time, you better buckle down, boy. Get to work, get your schoolwork done. And I'm thankful for that. At the time I wasn't. I was like, I just want to go to sleep. I just want to play a video game, or I just want to go. We were talking about going up to Locals Heights swimming pool back when it was still there.
Should still be there.
Just the fun stuff we got to do when we were kids. But that's the thing. He was preparing me to be a man. He was preparing me to be a father. He was preparing me to be a productive member of society. So my dad and my mom, my mom who helped run that my dad hauled the trash. My mom did the books, and so similar to my business now, right? I was out there digging in the dirt, planting trees, planting shrubs, putting in a patio, walkways, retaining walls. And my wife's the accountant, so it takes a team effort. So my mom and my dad, looking at their marriage, no marriage is perfect. No marriage, all of them are rocky one way or another, right? But my mom and dad have been married 55 years, 56, coming up 56 years. It'll be 56 years here in October. And, that's an inspiration too. Seeing a father figure, like, we need more fathers. Like, we have a plague of fatherless homes. We need fathers to step up. We need men to step up and be men, take responsibility for their actions, those sorts of things. But I'd say my parents was probably the biggest, shaping form, in my life. And then, outside of that, like, bigger figures, like historical figures, there was a man named Dietrich Bonhoeffer. Dietrich Bonhoeffer was a pastor back during World War II in Germany. And he was speaking out for the protection of the Jewish people who were being slaughtered. He actually had come to the United States, but he went back to Germany, and he was eventually killed by the Nazis. But Dietrich Bonhoeffer, his views on government and the church and that relationship of how how that relationship should be. And the interactions of, like, the church has got to be the conscience of the people, right? We have got to be we have freedom of religion here in the United States, right? It's not like you keep it in that church and don't say anything. No, you have to bring those convictions and those principles, right? And, into how you govern, right? But Dietrich Bonhoeffer, when he said, when we see these evil things, he said, silence in the face of evil is itself evil. Not to speak is to speak. Not to act is to act. He said, God will not hold us guiltless. And I believe that. I believe that we have got to speak up when we see things that are wrong. And I tried to do that, and, even in my governance, or how I govern, or, what I sign or how I vote. There's been instances here, even in Lancaster County, where we've had biological men in girls' sports. We need to protect our girls. We need to protect women's sports, right? And it's a simple scientific biological fact that we need to keep men out of our girls' sports. I have 3 daughters. And I'll tell you what, if there would have been a biological male trying to compete against my daughters, stealing their trophies, stealing their dreams, stealing their advancement, it's theft. And we need to call it wrong. We need to call it evil, and we need to call it out. And so I will always speak up when evil like that is going against our families, going against our daughters. There's so many things in this world that we have got to speak up about. And so, we when we're given those opportunities to open our mouth, we need to open our mouth.
Yeah,
for sure. Thank you for sharing that. I definitely agree. To switch topics a little bit, what does a perfect day? I know you're super busy owning a business. Working up at the Capitol. What does a perfect day outside of work kind of look for you? Whether it's family.
That's a fun question.
We have to get a fun one in there.
You know what? Like when I was a kid, the Susquehanna River didn't have any flatheads, but now we got those flatheads,
big ones.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, the Susquehanna River. When I was a kid, you didn't go near it. Like my parents were like, don't go near it, it's filthy. Blah. You know, it's like that has changed. You know, the water quality in the Susquehanna River has you know, increased, you know, dramatically. And so the river is just a beautiful place to, you know, kayak and fish. And, you know, so I actually I don't get out often, but I do enjoy catching a good flathead, right over here, you know.
Put up a fight.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they're a fun fish to catch, that kind of thing. But we have you know, just a beautiful area like that. Getting outdoors, enjoying time with the family too. Like, well, you know, it's one of the things. It's not just me out there by myself. It's more so like, you know, my son, my 3 daughters, my wife, my son-in-law. I have a daughter who's married now. You know, we get down to the river and we get out there on the rocks, and we'll take a bunch of food out and have a good old time. You know, and we have friends that you know, from this area we get together with, that kind of thing. Time with family and friends, you know, is precious, and I always make time for that. I make room for that, because if you don't maintain that, you're not maintaining your base, you know, and you need that base. So, so a perfect day for me, honestly. I've been blessed. Like they have this. There's this saying: if you enjoy what you do, you'll never work a day in your life, right? You got to be careful that work doesn't consume you. Even if you like your work, you got to make time for the family. You make time for your marriage. Make time first and foremost your marriage, and you know, make time for your faith. That grounds you. You know, make sure you maintain your connection with your Creator. Make sure you maintain your correct connection with your spouse. Make sure you maintain your connection with your children and your family. Those are the base. They're the foundational things in your life. The work can shift. You go from job to job, you know, that kind of thing. Life shifts over time. But I would say for me, perfect day, outside of the work I do, which I do enjoy, is spending time with my wife, hanging out with the kids, you know, on the river, on a trail. That's fun.
Sounds
Sure.
like a fun time. We do kind of the same stuff.
Yeah, so. and it's pretty much free. I mean, other than the fishing license. But that's worth it. So, you know, it's one of those things. You don't have to go on some, like I said, we live here in Lancaster County. You know, I've been outside the country. I've been all across this country. I've been to different places, and every time I come home, I'm like, man, like this is like, why'd I leave? You know, it's nice to visit places, but it's great to come home.
Yeah, it's nothing like waking up on a Saturday morning at like 5. We have a bass boat that we actually bought through the yard.
Yeah.
So we haven't last year, but prior we would go out like 5 in the morning while the sun rises.
Oh
There's nothing better than it.
No, and I'm a waterfowl hunter too, so I do kayak, and I've been boating on the river too. But kayaking on the river during like late duck season, it's like January. So you'll get sheet ice will start forming on the water, and you know, I wouldn't recommend it because it's fairly dangerous. You got to make sure you're wearing your flotation devices and all those sorts of things, and proper clothing, you know, in case you tip over. But being out on that river when there's like thin sheet ice coming down, and you know, golden eyes, bufflehead, you can hear them flying, their wings whistle just as the sun's coming up. You can't quite see them, but you can hear them flying by, and then all of a sudden, like this bald eagle just like soars over top of you, you know, and it's like, it's dead calm, and all you hear is the ice on your kayak, just, you know, like breaking up. It's the most peaceful. It's unbelievable. And like when I was a kid growing up here in Columbia, the bald eagles were all extinct, practically extinct in the lower 48 states. There was only like 72 breeding pairs up in like Washington State. But that nearly miraculous comeback of the bald eagles, the red-tailed hawks, the great blue herons, all the predatory birds, they all came back. And so now, you know, a week doesn't go by I don't see some bald eagles around here.
They're around the yard too.
Yeah.
We saw one down by the torching area probably like a month ago.
That's so cool. Yeah, you got some nice sycamores here. They probably perch up in.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yes, sir.
Well, just to wrap up, we kind of have a question we always ask is just what advice would you give yourself if you kind of knew what you know now around our age? Todd and I are 24, 24. Yeah. So,
well, boy,
It's we saved the toughest one for the last.
There's a lot. You know, there's a couple different pieces of advice I would give, but we kind of hit on, there's different areas, right? There's family, there's business, and there's government, you know, and yeah, and then there's your faith, right? And church and that kind of thing. So I would say, you know, at the core of it, number one would be pursue your relationship with your Creator. That's your foundation. That's where you find your identity, right? And if you know you're part of something bigger than yourself, a lot of things fall in line after that. You don't struggle to find your identity. You know, there's a lot of things where if you recognize that, like 250 years ago, we are endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights, right? So we have a Creator. Declaration of Independence talks about our Creator, talks about divine providence, and talks about God's will. And so I would say pursue your relationship with your Creator first and foremost. That's foundational. And then when it comes to family, you know, be devoted to your relationship with your wife. Make sure that after you're married, you keep dating your wife, right? Because what happens lots of times is you have kids, and the kids distract you as you get old. Then the kids leave, and you look across the dinner table, and you don't recognize the person you're married to anymore, right? Because you were so busy raising your kids that you didn't take time for your marriage, right? So your marriage and your spouse takes priority over your children. Now that sounds horrible, but it's not. Because your marriage is what directly affects your children, right? So I would say focus on your Creator, focus on your spouse, right? And then as an employee or an employer, you know, give it your all, you know, and you know, stay invested in that as long as that's in perspective of the other two, right? Yeah. Again, this is like a list of priorities, like, you know, descending priorities, right? And then as far as your civic involvement or your involvement in community, definitely get involved in the community in one way or another, whether that's helping out, you know, coaching Little League, whether that's getting involved in local government, volunteering here, volunteering there, or whether it's running for state house or state senate or whatever. But definitely, you know, at the very least, get out and vote, you know, and know who your representatives are, right? Because they make a big difference in your life. So kind of those four areas, educate yourself in all those things, educate yourself in, you know, your relationship with your Creator, educate yourself in how you parent and how, you know, in your relationship with your spouse, educate yourself in your job, you know, and then educate yourself in your interaction in your community and with government. That's kind of a big, broad answer to a very tough question. It's actually it's a tough question, but yeah, if I could give myself that's something that I figured out over time.
Yeah, it's definitely great advice.
And if I could go back and give myself that advice, I'd probably be a little bit more specific because I know in those areas where I needed to do better.
Yeah,
you know, but that's just general advice that I'd give.
Yeah,
no, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. It definitely resonates with me. So thank you.
Good. You guys married? Either you married?
I have a fiance. We've been dating for this September will be 6 years.
Okay, cool. Yeah. My wife and I, we dated for 5 years. That's way too long. I think people should get married. If you know in 2 years, you should get married. But
we're really just waiting to get. We dated for 3 years, got engaged, and now we're just waiting to be able to afford a house.
That's exactly. See, yeah, that's the same
I don't want to
thing.
go back to the basement.
Yeah, my wife was in college at the time. We started dating real young, and so, but we waited a few years. Then we got married. I was like 20. I was 23 when I got married. So, but it's that's cool, man. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. But so how about you?
I have a girlfriend, Sarah.
Okay.
You might get me in trouble here.
Okay.
We've been dating 3 years.
Okay.
So
all right.
But yeah.
Chop, buddy.
Yeah. No.
She's gonna love me.
Yeah.
Because I'm telling you, chop.
Actually, sorry, you can finish first.
Yeah.
No, I was just gonna say we just started renting a place together. So this is our first week. spending like figuring out how it is living together. And
Well,
so
well, you get married, go ahead, get married as soon as possible. That's what that would be my recommendation.
All right.
Because the figuring out how to live together, that'd take the rest of your life.
Yeah.
my wife and I, we've been married. We're coming up on 29 years. We're still figuring out how to live together.
Yeah.
So
I believe it,
that's an ongoing thing. That's the beauty of marriage. So I would recommend it. Highly recommend it. So
All right.
Yeah, awesome. Well, we really appreciate you taking the time to come on.
yeah.
Good luck with everything with your running for Senate.
Yep. Thank you.
So definitely, if you guys see the signs, vote, please. And we'll catch you guys on the next episode.
All right.